Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam. We are powered by the OBBM network, and you can find us streaming on all your favorite platforms. It is Mental Health Monday, and it's really important to get your mindset in the right position in order for you to keep functioning, especially in law enforcement. Hey, Sam, what's going on?
Hey, John. Well, we are in a deep freeze and hopefully a deep thaw soon. So tonight is an exceptional show. I mean, they're all exceptional. We love our guests. Tonight we are going to talk about something that has really changed the course of this country. And no, we're not talking about all that BS going on in Minnesota, because that's what it is. We're talking to a documentary specialist. That's what I call him, because he is a specialist, from StopHate.com. He's the original StopHate, and we'll bring him on in a second. But what I want to say is there's been a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of myth spread. There's been a lot of information that's not correct spread about what we're going to talk about. So the comment stream is live, so it doesn't matter where you're watching from. If you've got a question, if you got a comment, we ask that you be respectful, and that we're not going to read the curse words if you're going to put it in there, but just submit your comments, because we're going to really, I like to say, peel back the layers of the onion. We're going to freaking explode the onion.
Sam, about a month and a half ago, we spoke to a couple of firefighters and some directors about the myths and the truths and the hidden things that the media didn't tell us about 9/11. Mm-hmm. And some of those things that, like, one news channel will broadcast and another news channel will broadcast something totally different, or they'll show you part of a clip or not the whole clip. And they'll use their narrative to change whatever fits their political views. And, without saying what I watched today, this David's film that I watched today really changed a lot of perspective on my part, because now I looked at it and I looked at the full film. I looked at it as, oh my God, I never saw this played on any news media. I never thought that this could happen. And I was totally shocked. Even though, for myself, as a former law enforcement, I kind of got brainwashed about what the news media was telling us. Even Fox, I'll tell you, because they didn't show everything, they didn't explain everything, and nothing went into detail. This documentary really brought it to light with the truth, the facts, and the video coverage, body cams, and voices to prove all of those theories that came out were false.
Absolutely. So, look, without further ado, let's just dive in deep. He is the founder of StopHate. He is a J6 documentarian extraordinaire and more. David Sumrall, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV.
Welcome,
David. Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. Y'all were doing fine without me. I can wait backstage. Y'all were handling it.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I've seen them all, because we got to spend an afternoon together at the First Amendment Film Fest in Greenville a while back. And the documentaries, not only do they hit home, but a lot of visceral reactions for me personally, just sitting there, because like what John said, the perspective of January 6th from law enforcement, if you come from that world, we come with our preconceived notions, and to have that like, I'm just going to sit, I'm going to watch. And it's like, oh my gosh, can't be silent because we're about the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts a lot. Sometimes the truth stinks, and there's still not justice. Some of your documentaries just make me downright mad because there's not justice for the victims. But before we go any deeper, tell everybody watching and listening on their favorite podcast app a little bit about you and your background.
Well, I guess the people that have had kids can relate. Once you have a kid, you want to do something different. You want to make the world a better place for your kids. You know, it's like, wow, what a scary place. Now that there's a realization that I'm in charge of somebody else. Well, back in the early 90s, my wife at the time was pregnant with my son, first kid, only kid that I had. And it was scary. I thought, man, this Rodney King thing was happening on TV, this big racial divide. And where I grew up, where it was black and white, good mix, you know, we get along. I mean, everybody kind of, I didn't see what they were showing on TV. I certainly didn't understand that level of racism. And I'm from the South, you know, I don't see the KKK or anything like that. So, you know, I decided to try to do something to, at least in my community, make the world a better place, like we were saying. And StopHate is an acronym, start turning off prejudice, heal attitudes through education. You know, let's educate ourselves. Let's have the conversation. Don't be scared because you don't know. You know, these are prejudging things and they're emotional. And we see so many times that emotion is what the government or the media is plucking those strings. You know, it's all a emotional response, you know, and that's easy. I can think back to a fight that I got in third grade and get just as mad as the third grade. You know, that's the attitude problems that we have to fix. So just knowing that, trying to do local things as I could. I got in a kind of spin up with the KKK and some other groups. They didn't like what I was doing. They threatened me, my family, and young family. And they said, you know, we know where you live and we're going to burn your house down and kill your wife and kid and all this. And I thought, well, I'll back off a little bit. You know, I stood against the Black Panthers as well, the Nation of Islam. Louis Farrakhan probably remembers who I am, people like that. But, you know, that was a different time, I guess, in the early 90s. And, you know, I thought it was the end of the civil rights era, you know, all the bad things that were happening and people got along. But come to find out, hate is the most powerful tool. And, you know, for years, the media, the government used sex, race, religion, height, weight, whatever they could figure out to use against us. And then they said, you know what? Nothing divides people like politics. So let's just make every single thing political and we will rule this country. We will divide them down the middle, left and right, red and blue, however you want to say it. And they have, and they've been successful. And, you know, fast forward to a couple of years back, we did a lot of free speech stuff, you know, because unfortunately the MLK era had gone away for us, and we're fighting censorship and deplatforming and things that, you know, are unconstitutional, but it's their platform. Well, there's arguments to be had and we need to have them. And then we see the election issues and the censorships there, and it just snowballed to J6. You know, we had COVID and all the other things that led up to that, and then the election issues themselves. And as we know now, with the fraud, the death by 1,000 cuts, that J6ers had every right to go and protest. Now, they had no idea the police would attack them that day and that it would become a violent event, or we would have taken more than pocket knives. I'm just saying that would have been a totally different mindset. So we'll stop there with my history, but just know that it's not for fame or fortune or money, because I don't charge for what I've done through J6. There's rumors that I do, but I don't. I mean, it's all out of our pocket, out of service. I think it's what everybody should do. And to be honest, you know, you're talking about things that hurt once you see the truth. One of the things that really hurt J6ers was we never got the backing of any law enforcement. You know, no policeman stood up and stepped forward and said, you know what those Capitol and Metro police did was not what police do. And we can't stand for that. We can't support it. We're here to stand with these poor people that were brutalized and assaulted. Even President Trump said these people were assaulted, talking about the J6ers, not the police. So that really hurt. The churches didn't stand behind us. You know, it's the prisoner, the orphan, and the widow. Unless they're J6ers, then you can cross all those off your list. And these things, I think, are the revelation that our uniparty didn't support us. No politicians came to our rescue. No one got a J6er out of prison except President Trump. So that's where our focus remains. We're working on a couple of different projects to try to communicate directly with him and to really get this point across. So thanks once again. That's pretty much a nutshell of what I believe activism should be. You know, I've done my local city council. I've done what I can in my church, in my community, and my neighbors. You know, I think that's just as important as anything, is watching out for each other on that local level. So I encourage that, but where you can step in and make a difference nationally, just do it. And when people say, you know, you're just a carpenter from East Texas, you're not supposed to be able to affect national politics and media, just say, but God, and keep doing it.
David.
Absolutely. Hey, John, before we get into questions, I just want to say, we have got the comment stream is live and open. So as we go on with the show, if you have any questions, comments, please feel free. It doesn't matter what platform you're on. You can type in comments and we'll get them on the show here to David. Let's take our first break and then go right into what you are doing to raise continued awareness around J6. We will be right back. Stay tuned.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based, because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Hey, we got to say thank you to Patriot Mobile, because it is true. I had a problem with, I have a Patriot router because out in East Texas, we don't have any cable hookups or anything like that. And they got me up and running super fast, great, powerful signal. So trust me, you're going to want Patriot Mobile too. We've been customers since 2021. And right now, if you call Patriot Mobile 972-PATRIOT, tell them a badge of honor saying, use promo code BADGE, you get a free month of service. When was the last time you got free month of cell service? Yeah, exactly. Because if you walk into the big 3, you're not walking out with a free month of service. So you can go on, again, patriotmobile.com/badge, or call 972-PATRIOT, promo code BADGE for a free month of service. Thank you, Patriot Mobile. Now back to the show.
All right. Well, welcome back, David and Sam. You know, David, a question for you. When you were given your first bio when we first started the show, you know, Sam talks about peeling back the layers. Now, we're in 2026, and what you brought up about the government keeping us divided, red and blue and black and white, and through religion. You know, for those listening, this is nothing new. This is not a Trump thing. This is not a Biden thing or Obama thing. This goes back decades and decades and decades. There are portions of the government that have wanted to do this all along, but we were never unified enough, I guess, to start pulling back the onion back in the early 60s and 70s. We never peeled back that onion as much, or we were censored to do so because of the news media, which was not bought and paid for back then. You know, the Walter Cronkites of the news media are all gone now. Now it's whoever's paying the biggest paycheck. So, David, am I correct in saying this is nothing new in this generation?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think one of the things we're not as easily entertained. Back then, you know, you buy a $3,000 brand new car and you didn't know you have a Mustang. You're part of the clique, the trend, or, you know, the life, or you're working hard. You got the factory job. They're installing this 40-hour work week, you know, getting us used to all these things, you know, the taxes, the different things. It's like hypnotism long term, you know, and getting the society used to serving you and how that looks. And, I think people look at it two different ways. Either Trump is breaking the bad guys system or he's stealing the bad guys system. I think it's making both teams mad in that respect. We want him to break it, put it to pieces and end it and, bring justice back to regular Americans. The other people see it like a power play, like he's disrupting what they've been able to do for us for decades and decades. And that's not a comfortable feeling, knowing that people like that already. I mean, we ask ourselves all our lives, how did Hitler happen? How did all these happen? This is how, and you talked earlier about omission. I want to stress how important that is, especially around J6. They saw bits and pieces, little tidbits of video from 2 o'clock, from 4 o'clock, from 11 o'clock, from 3 o'clock, and they bounced it all over. And you didn't know what you were looking at, what time of day, what side of the building, inside, outside, good guy, bad guy. They just jumbled it all up on purpose. And we put this timeline film together just to iron it out. The very first film we did was a timeline film. And you hear people talk about rewriting history. No, we're trying to RIGHT history. We're trying to make it right and set it back up in its proper place. And that was the title of our first film, Writing History. And I want people to understand the importance of a journalistic battle. If you control the words, you control the narrative, you omit what the truth is, even in the courts. And now when we get to AI, if you search these things, if it didn't end up in a transcript or in a mainstream media article somewhere, then AI won't even find it or recognize it or believe it. So then you have to look at the historic perspective of what we're doing to our kids and our grandkids by not solving the problems, but as Kelly Walker, one of our associates, says, landmines for them in the future. And I think that's so important. People aren't getting the lessons. They're not having the pain points. They're not suffering and they're not feeling it. And you got 1,600 roughly people, which 20 people per person. You think of their circle and their family and their friends. There's a lot of suffering going on that still the rest of the country is oblivious to. And that's the power of the narrative control, the media, the propaganda, not to let the country know that 4 innocent people died that day at the hand of the police in one way or another. And they don't know the stories behind that, or to think that the people attacked, trying to overthrow the democracy when they were literally attacked by the police as they stood there peacefully saying, please don't spray us. Please don't shoot us. We're here to redress our grievances on megaphones. What are the cops, deaf? So there are videos that prove all these things. Thankfully, President Trump just put out a new website called White House, or at his website, whitehouse.gov/J6, whitehouse.gov/J6, and it will tell you more of the real story, not the select omitted fable narrative that the Select Committee, the HBO, the BBC, and all these other criminal organizations have tried to portray to America.
But people are going to believe what they want to believe.
That's right.
And since it's attached to Trump, they're not going to believe it anyway, no matter how factual it is.
That's right.
It's just that narrow-minded aspect of it, because we've gotten to a generation where 3 minutes on TikTok and they believe everything. They believe TikTok has all the facts. But I know you want to answer that, but hold on because I'm going to lose my train of thought for a second. But with the Capitol Police and the Washington Metro Police, right? Sam brings this up all the time. It's like a moral compass. And if you hear some of those officers in your video, in your documentary, they said they were set up. They were set up to fail by not the protesters, but by the people in Capitol Hill, at Capitol Hill at that time. They were set up to fail. They weren't given the right tools to quell that crowd.
That's right.
And when we talk about the moral compass, law enforcement, you are allowed, if you feel that those commands or those things that people are telling you go against everything inside you, you do not have to do those things. Being told to shoot into a crowd, you don't have to shoot into a crowd just because some guy with stripes on his shoulder says, do it. If you feel there's no justification for it, do not do it.
And we saw that in the film. You could see that in the film where there were police officers that said, no, do not do that. And then you saw the ones that really wanted to attack, grab, whatever, and go ahead and assault the crowd.
That's right. So think about this. If it was some Texan officer that was up there protecting the Capitol, he may see things totally different than a Capitol officer that's protecting the Capitol because they live in that bubble. All they ever hear from is the DC media. All they ever hear from is politicians on both sides. And you'll notice the one side that's supposed to be our side doesn't even defend us when they're talking bad things about our side.
Right.
So they think that we literally went there for a war. They thought that we went to do bad things. And look, I understand that, we've been there a couple of times before over the last few months, big rallies, protests. Antifa had been beating people up and stabbing them. And so people were wearing riot gear, stab-proof vests and things, to helmets, for the bricks and water bottles and things that Antifa throws. And so the police saw that, and I know that they thought, oh my gosh, look at these people. They're geared up. They're ready to fight. But that wasn't the point. And literally when they're standing there in that big crowd saying, please don't shoot us, please don't spray us, that's when the commands come through on the radio, fire, fire, fire. They're being rowdy and this and that. But in the videos, they're not. And I think this is the thing. If you don't know who started the fight, you can't judge. You can't say, well, it's their fault or their fault, because you don't know. And this is the part the media never let people see. It's how it started. And that's why those police are reacting. We were set up. I've called it from day one, choreographed chaos, because if you don't have, like you said, the equipment, that's tools, that's weaponry, it's shields, it's helmets. They had their helmets taken back because they were expired and they hadn't released new helmets yet. I mean, imagine the timing on something like that.
Right.
But not to have the intel either. They didn't share the information. That's just as important a tool that they could use that day. How many people are coming? What time are they coming? And then all the barricades that were moved that morning before people got there that may have steered them around to the side where the events were scheduled instead of letting them go to that west side that was off limits. And then at 1 o'clock when those gates went down, nobody knew any different. There were no police to tell them where to go. There were no cones, no signs at that point. They were gone. So all the charges, everything is so manufactured. And I want people to understand it doesn't matter what side you're on at that point. They'll use this one against the left or the right whenever they need to because they got away with it.
Right.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. We got to take our next quick break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned, everybody.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam with our special guest, David Sumrall, right? Am I pronouncing that right?
Sumrall.
Sumrall. He put out he's a film director and J6 activist and bringing out the truth, no matter which side it hurts. But he's showing factual stuff here, and this is where we stop the hate, and that's what your website's all about. It's bringing people together to show that we can live together in harmony and have a democratic conversation without the violence.
Well, I wish we could, and unfortunately, it seems like we can't. And I want to get back to the old school, civil debate. We miss those days when you could have a heated discussion, even, spit and scream in each other's face wouldn't matter. At the end of the day, you can still go and eat dinner together or hang out or still be friends or still live on the same block and not throw trash in each other's yard. But it seems like that programming has happened since we were kids. We see it on television. It's no longer Beaver Cleaver with Ward going to work and, June or whatever, the wife staying home with the kids. It's the wife goes to work. The husband's overweight, sits on the couch. They all make fun of him all day. She's the problem solver. She's the breadwinner. It's the demasculinization of the country, of the world. It's the no testosterone limit thing. It's all those things. And there's a leadership that goes with that. You know, women's rights, I'm all for that, but look what it's done to a lot of the men in making them, you know, not say anything like a man anymore, let's just say. And we need that kind of leadership. And I think that's what people identify with so many times with President Trump. And yet it comes across like the father giving the kids a spanking, and they don't like that either. But it's the common sense approach that we see as a necessity. You know, we can't continue along this path and be a successful country. It's impossible. We're falling apart. And we'll be just like Britain, you know, and we see what's happening there from across the pond, and it's coming here. So how do we, the people, take that power back? President Trump said in 2017, I'm giving the power back to the people, not an administration, not the government, but the people. Well, what does that feel like? What does it look like? What's the vehicle that we put that in? How do we wield that power, and how do we take that control? Because we've been trying. We need to communicate with him. And I'll throw a website out here. People can go check it out, sign the petition if it sounds good to you. ThePeoplesTribuneCouncil.com. ThePeoplesTribuneCouncil.com. And we're trying to start a thing where we can communicate directly with our commander-in-chief. If it's our boat and he's the captain, we need to talk to the captain. And it's going to help him tremendously because he's not being told the truth. We see who he's surrounded with, good or bad. He's trusting in these people to help him, and they're not. So we know the politicians and media won't help. It's really up to us to communicate with him. If he gives the power back to the people, he'll be the most popular president for the next 250 years. Help us fix this problem, and we'll appreciate that more than anything, be in control of our own destiny.
Let's talk a little bit about politicians' paychecks. So I think this is where it stems from too, where you know, a senator at $174,000 a year salary now is in 4 years is worth $30 million, or you know, a local Queens politician who was bartending for a long time is now worth millions of dollars and has done nothing.
Yeah.
So are these politicians protecting their kickbacks, their fundraising events, and their money coming in at our expense? Our expense.
Yeah. And I'd say that bartender that you're talking about, she's not that smart. I know who you're talking. Maybe they're all following Nancy's inside trader tips. You know, I mean, we see all these things, but yeah, there's a lot of criminality, and this is the part about J6 that we're seeing, that people need reparations. They need to be made whole again. All this time and money and energy that's been stolen from their lives, literally for years, the prison and all that. But it's financial to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? But until you have someone that's guilty for something and say, this guy's guilty, he's going to jail, here's the crime, and that snowball effect that would happen with all the cops, then the FBI, then the judges, then the media, then all, you know, whichever direction it goes, they can't let us start that process. When January 6th happened, Joe Biden got in front of all his friends on the left and the right, and he had that big red speech, and he said, those citizens almost took away what we're doing. They almost ruined it for us. So we're going to make sure this never happens again. And you know what? The people on the right told the people on the left, okay, do whatever you need to do, make it as painful, terrorize them, hunt them down, and we're just going to turn a blind eye and say, you know what, but they insurrected, you know, it was a terrible thing and they shouldn't have done it. It's just the way that the uniparty works, you know, and until people have those pain points and say, you know, enough's enough, now it's affecting me, or it's affecting my friends or my neighbors or somebody that I know, it's getting more and more to that level. I think J6 was a big eye-opener, you know, especially with the election fraud that never went away. And now there's no statute of limitations on that. So I want people to understand there's reasons that it takes so long, and that you have to show the public little by little who the bad guys are and the bad things that they've done. Because if you hit them all at once, totally unbelievable. They're never going to believe. There would be a mutiny in the streets. It would be horrible. But at least this way, you start taking them down. So, oh, yeah, he did. But well, that's, you know, yeah.
Well, and we are unfortunately, you know, you talk about mutiny in the streets. We're seeing it right now. We're seeing the plan unfold from the Uniparty because they got busted. That's because of those kickbacks got, you know, exploded and made public. Thanks to reporters, you know, people just like you, David. These, and I'll call them youngsters, that, you know, they're not professional press people. They go out, they uncover the fraud, and it, you know, it wasn't that hard. And now they're dealing with the backlash. You talk about, the way that the J6ers showed up,
Right.
we already heard people are getting stabbed, people are getting rocks or bricks, the water bottles that are frozen. So of course people are going to show up to protect themselves, and it's just the cycle all over again, except now the finger's pointed at, see, look at the government. So it's like we go through these cycles where it's, look at the J6ers, don't look at the government over here. Now look at the government, don't look at the poor, underprivileged people that, please, it's
smoke and mirrors.
Damn,
It is.
It's theatrical smoke and mirrors to hide what's really going on. And and I think in your documentary you proved a point too. I can't think of his name. They thought he was a Fed. He kind of agitated. He was in every piece of the film. I forgot his name in the documentary. Ray Epps.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, whatever happened to him? Was he an agitator? He was all trumped out and in his stuff. But was he ever charged, or was he anything ever happened with him?
Yeah, he was. He got different treatment, preferential treatment than anyone. They wrote articles about him, did 60 Minutes things about him, all that. And he got a little probation, got a little slap on the wrist, stay out of trouble, stay home, don't go to jail, no prison time, not even a month. Like, it was on purpose, in my opinion, though. Think about back in high school when two people got in trouble for fighting. They both went to the principal. They treated one worse than the other, but it was the wrong way around. And it made everyone just intensely mad, and I think this is the same kind of thing. They stoked that, so we would focus so much on Ray Epps and not the people who died, or focus so much on the gallows, who's Mr. Coffee, instead of Roseanne Boylan and Kevin Greason and Ashley Babbitt and Benjamin Phillips, or let's focus on the pipe bombs, or anyone other than the police brutality or who started the fight. And even the journalists on our side, folks, the day that Stephen Sund went up before the hearing and got questioned, there were mainstream journalists that we considered the J6 experts that were talking about Ray Epps that night in Spaces instead of Stephen Sund's testimony. I mean, that is propaganda 101, smoke and mirrors, hat tricks, sleight of hand, whatever you want to call it. And that's what happened for years, and that's how they kicked the can down the road past what they thought was the statute of limitations. But now we know it has foreign interference. We know that it involves murder, for one. And there's no statute of limitations on the election being stolen for that. So I don't think it's over by any means. I think the trap has been set very well, and I think the hook is really, really deep. And now it's just time to set it and pull. And I see more leaning toward that kind of ending than the bad guys returning to power and putting us all in prison for the rest of our lives at this point.
We certainly, I know John and I pray every day that, keep exposing, keep shining a light on all the bad guys, so that we know who we're looking. And I think we are at that turning point. And, you talk about setting the trap in a hook. And I know for John and I, every time in the morning when the alarm clock goes off, that's our trap and our hook to go grab some really good coffee. And we are so blessed to be partnered with East Texas Legends Coffee and Ben and Amanda Holmes. They're the founders. You can watch them on last season's show. They've got both amazing stories. And East Texas Legends Coffee Company, it reflects their journey from Ben's Marine Corps service and law enforcement career, overcoming post-traumatic stress to finding purpose in ranching. Relocating to an East Texas ranch, they identified a need for a local coffee brand. Now they're opening their first coffee shop in Lindale, Texas, rooted in faith, family, and community. Their mission: inspire purposeful conversations over coffee. Drink coffee, be legendary. Go to etxlegendscoffee.com. Use promo code BADGE for 15% off coffee and merch, or just put your phone up and scan this beautiful QR code. It'll take you right there. That's etxlegendscoffee.com. Use promo code BADGE for 15% off coffee and merch. And John and I always have our tumblers. These tumblers keep the coffee cold for hours and hours. And I mean, cold if you like cold, because that's my son. So keeps coffee cold with the ice cubes and all for hours, and then vice versa, keeps coffee hot for hours and hours. If you like that. But yeah, Hayden is into the iced coffee. So he sometimes grabs the tumbler. I don't know, when it's 15 degrees, or maybe we got to 25 today. No, there's no iced coffee. So yeah, and support law enforcement and veterans.
Without a doubt.
It's 100%. So yeah, John, you had another question for David.
Yeah, I just want to bring up something that's really relevant to this, because it sparked a memory that just happened with this past ice storm here in Texas. If you guys if you're listening, look at the difference in the media just at this past this ice storm here in Texas. Ted Cruz was featured getting on a plane going out of Texas to Florida for an event, a 24-hour event that he had to speak at, right? So one news media says, look, Ted Cruz is abandoning Texas again. Like he did in 2021. But they didn't tell you the full narrative that he was coming back that very next day, because it was a one-day trip, So that's how they spin it. But people don't understand that, because they don't hear the follow-up. They don't listen to the rest. They just go, oh, there goes Ted Cruz again, which politicians travel. And they do that 24-hour turnaround. That happens.
It's funny how you say that, and that's the way they use it in the media. But, those are almost innocent, where people take, never let a crisis go to waste or whatever. But then you got the intentionality of people like Hakeem Jeffries that say the 4 police officers that died as a result of January 6th. Wait a minute, that's some kind of word salad. Died as a result of January 6th. Makes people think they died on January 6th.
Right.
But they didn't, and they didn't die because of January 6th. They're just trying to tie it to January 6th when they supposedly suicided, but they could have.
Well, that's the moral injury. That's the moral injury, and it is. That whole day took their toll on the folks that actually are in the job to do the job correctly. Sure. And did not fire on the crowd, or maybe they did something they supremely regretted. But you can speculate they're with they are with their maker,
and let me add to that. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, of course. No suicide notes or whatever. They did have to sign NDAs. They were interviewed by the FBI after. They weren't allowed to say certain things. I mean, one guy that died on that list didn't see any violence that day. He showed up afterwards. What could he possibly want to kill himself for? Another officer killed himself while in a moving classic Mustang with his. At first, a cop's not going to endanger other people by shooting himself in a moving car and all these. I mean, none of these things add up to me. They all deserve further investigation, just like the 4 actual deaths from January 6th. Like we're talking about Michael Byrd. He got a promotion for shooting Ashley badly. He got a pay raise. He got a better job. He got, and he should be in prison. With Michael. And
that footage is up close and personal. That footage is. And when I met Ashley Babbitt's mom at your event at the Texan Theater, it's on the wall and behind you. It was just, it went through me. It was like, I cannot believe what I am watching here.
That was an assassination. Yeah. Off the bat, an assassination. She had no weapon. She was not a threat. Nothing.
She was pulling the other person down that was trying to break through.
Was, in my eyes, have you
seen that video, John? If people want to go to StopHate.com/Ashley, you can watch that video. We broke it down, did the slow motion, blew it up real good, zoomed in so people can see. But literally, when the cops walk away from in front of the window, she pulls the guy that just breaks the window out completely, Zachary Alarm. She pulls him by the backpack, punches him in the glasses, knocks his glasses off, and then she goes to take that position, and we believe to defend it. A lot of people, well, she was scared. She was trying to get away from the crowd. She's a badass. I'm sorry. She was doing what she needed to do to contain because the police weren't doing their job, and she got up in that window, and she was doing what she was going to do. And Byrd, decided he was going to fire on the first person that stuck a body part through the glass. and didn't know as a woman, didn't know anything about, didn't know how big or little or armed or not. He's just a moron. Like, they probably paid him extra to make sure, whatever. And however that works, we need to get to the bottom of it. We need to know who his handler was, who was the first person he talked to, who took him away and hid him, where did they hide him, what training did he and all these other officers go through before the select committee hearings and all their media appearances, because their stories changed. You hear Hodges' first testimony is different than his next one. A couple of days, same with Fanone. I wasn't in fear of my life. And then, oh yeah, they were going to kill me. So these things change as soon as they get better coaching and they get on down the road, start making money. And it's just really criminal. It needs to stop. It doesn't need any room in our politics, because then it makes regular people mad at each other when it's nothing to do with us. It's criminals, it's liars, it's thieves that are trying to pit us against each other. And J6 was a divisive event intentionally. The people that support the cops now killed cops, and now we can never trust each other because we say we didn't go for that. And they say, we saw it on video.
Right.
But it's that omission. They didn't show the whole story. They
Right.
definitely didn't let us tell our side. And now the media is not even in interviewing these J6ers, these people that survived, that were tortured by the government, sit in prison and did all these. They're not even interviewing. Where's the tour? Where's all our golden journalists that we thought, really love J6ers? They're not telling the stories on purpose, guys, because they work for that same uniparty.
Yeah, and for those of you that are listening on your favorite podcast app that can't see the link, it's stophate.com/Ashley, and Ashley is spelled ASHLI.
Yes.
So you can watch the full video there. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, another thing you say about not showing the full video, there were parts of that documentary that really got me, that many of those protesters were thanking the police officers, saying thank you and be safe. Mm-hmm. They were patting them on the back. They were respectful. Mm-hmm. And in the first video, when the first gate went down, a female officer fell to the ground, and you see the protesters helping her up, and then later on in the videos asking if she's okay and saying, "Hey, listen, we are just here for the protest. We don't no violence," and a majority of them, even walking through the Capitol, were thanking all the officers and praising them.
I tell people
that was never shown. That was never shown on the news.
That's right. They won't show you that. If you will watch that very first gate push on the west side at 1:00, 12:55, whatever, and you'll watch that closely. Slow it down if you want to, zoom in, whatever. They're not attacking police. Police aren't getting punched and hit. They're attacking the fence. And it wasn't even our guys. It was Antifa guys, and they were shaking the fence and pushing and pulling. It was like a tug of war with the fence. The cop comes in waylaying people. But like you said, the one guy that pushed the fence, the girl tripped and fell and hit her head. If they'd had those helmets that they recalled, she wouldn't have hurt her head, for one. But he helps her back up, and he goes and checks on her again. They conveniently never mention any of that in the trials, by the way. No. That is not to be said, that he checked on her after she fell down and helped her back up. None of that. So, I mean, it's that omission, guys, one more time, that really we had our Tiananmen Square, where the government killed protesters, blamed the protesters, imprisoned the protesters, and used the media to cover up their sins. That's exactly what happened. And if we don't learn from that, let me give you one more website, lettersfromprison.us. Lettersfromprison.us. This is the third book in the series that just came out, The Road to Freedom. The first was Letters from Prison, the second, The Art of Confinement, and now The Road to Freedom. It's an amazing book. These books are full of those prisoners' letters from the gulags across the country that tell their own firsthand experience. These are the history lessons, the stories straight from their hand that we can't forget, that people are unaware of.
Is that book available on your website?
Letters from Prison.
I'm trying to show it on.
Yeah. Right, it's available on your website, David.
Yeah, it should be a link. Just scroll down there on the picture of those books and click on that.
So I'll put your website. So StopHate.com. Mm-hmm. You have all of these resources, and I met two of the J6 parents that were at one of the gun shows last year, and the book. They had the book, and then we were talking about their son, and it was very heartwarming to have a conversation with them and just reassure them that, not all law enforcement is bad out there, that a lot of us that were already out and retired or served that watched what happened were struggling a lot to understand how this just got out of control. And just, prayers for her son who's out now.
Yes.
And so when your website's up again, it's StopHate.com. What are the films that people can go and watch around J6, and how do you suggest, what should be the first one?
So the films right there on the front page at StopHate.com, they're in backwards order. We put out 5 films, 1 per year. So the latest one that we did, the most recent, is Pardon Us, Justice for All. It was put out after the pardons, and it gives an explanation of why they were necessary and the lawfare that we went through in the courts and the system. And then you go backwards from there. J6 True Timeline was just before that one. 1,000 Days of Terror is a 5.5-minute film that shows how the fight started, who started the fight. It's a really great short breakdown. Before that was Bloody Hill, the 7 abominations of J6 or sins. It's more of a narrated, but it's chock full of real information and video. But the very first one we did, Writing History, 35 or 37 minutes, I think, something like that, based on video from the day, from our own cell phones, everybody that we could collect, plus my whole camera crew. And the only difference between that and J6 True Timeline, we were able to add the police body cams, the CCTV, the bigger, after 3.5, 4 years of research, the vault was big and we could draw from a lot of different footage. So I think that was the strength in exposing this to everyone. And, thanks to President Trump for the pardons and for this website and for continuing the fight. It's not over. And I just really wanted to reach him and say, we're here to help with all of that, because we have to have convictions to get justice, to get restitution, to get reparations, to have the peace. Because look, J6 happened because of hate. They hate Trump, they hate us, they hate the Constitution, they hate God. That's a political thing. It's not all their fault. They were trained into this as well. It's programming and propaganda, and that 2 words everybody hates, Kool-Aid. But everybody drinks it. We just drink it from our preferred cups. So we really need to, talk more, communicate, take the fear labels off for 10 minutes and say, hey, it's a small place. We all have to get along. It's not that we want to, or where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Let's make this thing work the way it's supposed to and get back to God, back to the basics, back together. But there's this thing called grace. And we have been so far programmed away from anything that looks like grace. But I'm telling you right now, if we win this battle and we continue to attack who we defeat, we're no better. We're no better. We need to learn from that.
Yeah, I call it, I agree. We can't attack them. It's the expose, address it, whatever that address looks like, just not with violence, not attacking that. And I think what people are really waiting for is we got to see some perp walks. We got it whatever state it comes from. We've got to see some perp walks.
We do.
Yeah, David, your personal. Where do you think this is going? Where do you think this is going now? It's going to get worse before it gets better, or will it get better before? What's your personal view on where we are heading? Because you are a smart man. You've done your deep dive. You've heard a lot of the stuff that a lot of people have not heard. You've been privy to it. Do you think we are on maybe a mend, or are we looking for something worse down the road?
Well, I'll be like Forrest Gump, Jenny, I'm not a very smart man, but I'm just telling you, from what I can see and where I go, the people that I do talk to, we're in for an education process. And it's not pleasant and it's not easy. And it took us a long time to get to this point. It's not going to be an instant road back to where we need to be. It's going to take time and it's going to be painful. And unfortunately, I think leading into the 50s and 60s, we'd had such a sheltered life because what our parents had experienced that they didn't want us to experience. We know how these cycles work. Mm-hmm. And then, the work and the not work and the hard work and the easy work. We know all those things. So we're kind of at the end of one of those cycles, in my opinion. And I don't want it to end up in a violent situation for anyone, whether it's a civil conflict or a foreign war, either one. We're vulnerable. And I think in Bloody Hill is where I said, united we stand. divided we die. And literally, I believe that. And it's not about diversity as our strength or any of that garbage, because that's not really the truth. It's just about sticking together and having that commonality of this is America. And I don't have to agree with you 100% about anything, but it's those freedoms that we fight together to protect. And I think we're coming into a period of that where it's really that back to the basics part that we were talking about. And a lot of people aren't ready for that. It's going to be sad. To try to force this.
And we've got elections coming up here. Yep. Speaking about getting back to it, March 3rd, and we've got a lot of incredible people that are true patriots, like Doc Pete Chambers.
I love Doc.
Yes, Doc Pete was on the show. We've got to unseat the people in Texas that have become part of Texas. Has got its own uniparty.
Yes, it does. It's bad. And look, even the voter fraud, we talk about people like Cruz and Beto and even Abbott, and look at that. But old Doc Pete Chambers at the 1A Film Fest, go to 1afilmfest.com and get your ticket and watch Doc give his debut that he was going to run at the 1A Film Fest second annual deal. It was really great. And he's such a strong guy. And I want people to understand, we have to get back to that time of a moral character, a moral fiber, a belief in God, not yourself. We see everybody is so hell-bent on proving themselves on something. And Doc's not that guy. Doc just has that servant's heart, the way that politicians, 174,000 isn't supposed to turn into 30 million. It won't with Doc. And I think the proof's in the person there. And I just hope that we can get the word out to get him elected so he can help us, because we need it really bad in Texas.
Yes, we absolutely do. StopHate.com is your main website. And David, do you have any upcoming events that people should know about?
Just our lawsuit with the FBI. They came to my house about 3 months ago, still asking about an ongoing J6 lawsuit that one of the defendants is in. And I made comments on social media, so they're still asking me. So we're suing the FBI to ask them why they keep coming to my house and why they say I don't have a file when they said they read the file, studied the file. And so there's a lot going on there. But more or less, you watch the election and see what's still going on about 2020. I want people to understand that is far from over. No statute of limitations. More information on the way. Keep your eyes open, because it's going to change what happens in the future.
Absolutely. That is well said. Again, David Sumrall from StopHate.com. You've got an amazing group. If you go on the website, you read about your entire crew that you have. They are very skilled, very dedicated as well to getting the truth out there, bringing people together, because it is about having conversations. And there are some people you just can't have conversations with, and you just got to kind of leave them to do their own thing. And we got to keep trudging on for what is right to save this country. So thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing. Yes. And really, again, I like to say exploding the onion. We got a lot of thumbs up. We got a lot agree. This is beep, beep.
I'm preaching to the choir, then that can be a good thing. But thank y'all so much for
David, thank you for the education, man, because like I said, former law enforcement, me and Sam have been there with bad bosses and good bosses, the moral compass, what we felt was right or what was wrong. But this documentary really, really hit me hard. And I see the media for what it is. Yes. A failure to properly do their jobs. And you brought it all to light, and there's no disputing it. So I want to thank you again for taking the time, the 3.5 years or 4 years it took you to put all this together, because it was an eye opener. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, John, Sam, both of y'all. God bless y'all. And I look forward to doing this again real soon.
Absolutely. Take care, David. Be well. Appreciate you. This was phenomenal. Again, we are, this is all about mental wellness, mental health, call it whatever you want, because when you're lied to for so long and you see the truth through cell phone videos, there's no doctoring the camera. And I know people that were actually there. It shakes you to your core to know that for so long there was a whole plan, and it's all blowing up now in their faces. And that's why we have look here, no look here, no look here, no look here, because they can't stand that everything is being exposed. So again, go to StopHate.com. Yeah, and watch the truth. Watch the truth. Thank you to David again. All the everybody, all the J6ers. Special prayers for you, to you and your family. Just stay in the fight, because you're out, and you've got a tremendous amount of people that want to see you made whole, because you deserve it. And we are doing a lot out there, John, of this weather kind of messed things up for our last workshop that we're doing. But if you want a private workshop, because we got a whole bunch of them coming up, go to badgeofhonor.org. We will have open workshops that we do, thanks to Garland Police Department allowing us to use their training room later in the year, after we work with some specific law enforcement agencies here. So again, badgeofhonor.org. And we talk about partnerships, John, all the time. And we've got amazing partners and resources. The partners are highlighted on our website. And I want to say, from all of us at A Badge of Honor, thank you to Carry the Load. Carry the Load has come through on so many different levels year after year, and they have gifted us with an amazing gift that will allow us to continue our mission, to grow, to help more first responders out there. Folks, it takes grassroots. It takes all of us to come together, to have the difficult conversations, to see the path ahead to heal. We've got to stop the hate. Like David says, we got to heal together. And so thank you, Carry the Load. You are part of a healing process for so many. We are just absolutely grateful for you. To all of our law enforcement out there, spread out. People are going to different states to help out. We're praying for you, for your safety to return home. So we've got a group of prayer warriors for you as well. For all of our veterans out there, thank you for fighting the good fight that allows John and I to do a show just like this every week. For all of our military personnel spread out across the globe, we are praying for your safe return to the United States as well. Thank you for keeping our shores safe. John, take us home.
You mentioned Carry the Load. I want to give a big shout out to our guest that we had on last week or the week before, James Collins with Heroes in the Sky. I got to meet him here in Texas through this snowstorm. He flew in to do a special memorial presentation, which was a beautiful ceremony this past week. And there'll be further at Texas Harley-Davidson later on when the weather clears. But I want to thank you, James. I'm glad you got back to Georgia safe. God bless you and all the grassroots foundations that are out there that are doing your thing and keeping our warriors safe and mentally healthy. Thank you.
Remembering them. Yeah.
Peace.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBN Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBN Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.